Good morning. Good evening. Hello, everybody. Okay, so today's going to be a fun day. I got a ton of content to go through. I don't even know where to start. I want to talk about brand. I want to talk about personal brand. I want to talk about how do you build your personal persona. And I want to bring in one of the finest, and I say finest experts in the building your domain expertise space. Because look, there is a very specific methodology to being able to build out a great company. Hey, by the way, you think my mic's big enough? I think it is. But there's a very specific methodology to building out a company. The first thing is you got to make sure that you have something that people love, not what people want, but they love. It doesn't have to be something huge. It can be like one of the features, but the people got to love it. If they don't love it, you're not going to be able to break through and bring in, the amount of people that you need to be able to really scale your product with. Number two, you need to then be able to build a brand around that. And allow me to bring in Mr. Dustin.
Hello.
Hello, buddy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming through clear as a bell.
Love it, love it.
And so I was just starting off with a little monologue about the importance of building up your domain expertise, but I was kind of getting there slowly. So I was talking about and I think, you and I, Dustin, have got the great privilege of being able to engage with hundreds and hundreds of startups. And I'm going to ask Dustin to talk about himself in a second, but I'm going to talk about him first. I'm talking about why I have asked him to join us here today and probably many, many, many days in the future. I've known Dustin for 10 years, long time, pretty much since I arrived here in Santa Monica. And I always remember the first time that I met Dustin. It was when he was arranging an event. One of his people was out arranging an event, and I was fortunate enough to get through to the folks over in Dun & Bradstreet Credibility Corp. And I met this guy, and he was managing all of these things, and he's managing all of these events that his people are doing here, and then he's managing cold outreach, and then he's managing this digital domain expertise that's being built. And I was absolutely fascinated at the time, and we became friends principally because our kids went to the same school together. But then as we kind of built our friendship and built our relationship, I realized that he had a ninja skill, and the ninja skill is in the area of building domain expertise with the very specific view of reducing cost of customer acquisition. And this is a really fascinating space because I'm an expert on the other end. My expert is smashing down doors, obviously, because I'm Irish, right? That's the only thing we know how to do. As I just go in, I'm like, here's a door. There's probably a client at the back of it. We're going to get a hammer. And literally anything I pick up is either a hammer or a sledgehammer, and we're going to smash our way through the door. And that's okay. It kind of works in some instances, right? It is a marketing channel. But Dustin's marketing channel is finesse and beauty and gorgeous, and building up this really awesome domain expertise. And so today we're going to toggle backwards and forwards on both of these. But actually, before I go into why a startup has to know both of these areas, and I'm going to give a really live example of one of my favorite companies that we have an investment in today, Credit, who I spoke to again this morning. And I'm going to talk about how Credit have worked their way up through the sales funnel of their customers, starting with my smashing on doors and then finishing in a place where Dustin is. But Dustin, what else would you say about your experience and your background? And now I'm so privileged. I have you here as an incredible part of as Chief Fractional Marketing Officer, but then for Expert Dojo, but then also as a partner to be able to help our founders be able to really build their domain experience. But what else would you say about that? What's so special about a founder being famous for being awesome in the space that they're in?
It's interesting because so many of the companies that I work with and love to work with, they always want to go after big enterprise clients. And I think what I like to bring to the table, what I like to is going after somebody who's in the C-suite at an enterprise company is tough. They are so much more immune to, emails that are cold emails. They're way more immune to, they never answer their mobile phone anymore. They never, like, they get pitched so many times a day. Like the average C-suite exec, not even Fortune 500, just somebody with a C in their title on LinkedIn, is pitched anywhere probably from 30 to 100 times a day. So if you don't figure out how to ignore almost everything, like, you'll never be able to be in the C-suite. Like, a good skill is, you learn to say no to everything, right? Personally, I get pitched like that, right? Like, I get pitched, I can't, so many times that I couldn't bother to answer. I can't even look at things anymore. So this idea of building domain expertise for an executive, even a founder startup, it starts breaking through walls that are really hard to build otherwise. I find that these people, once you get up at the higher level in bigger companies, right, you have to engage with those executives in a way that breaks through. And so that can be a lot of it. The other thing I'll back up and say is this idea of referral marketing, because so many of these, so much of what the marketing kind of gets done when you're going after smaller businesses, rightfully so, is just let's go, like, get as many emails, as many calls we can make. But as you're going for bigger clients, as you're looking to scale your startup, right, you're going to have to make that transition at some point where, how do I go get the people in my network to refer those clients to me? Those are where the big deals come. The number of times I've been working, whether it was at Dun & Bradstreet or Credit Safe or Hawk or wherever we've been, the lawyers, all these different spots, the big clients come because you met somebody in an event who knew somebody who needed your services and they made that recommendation, right? That's where you get those $50,000 deals, the $500,000 deals. It is rarely because you had an SDR rep calling somebody up, and then it went from, you somehow got through their telephone system up to some C-suite deal where you close a $500,000 deal. So if I'd say anything, Brian, it would be that softer touch is important because it's part of that referral marketing game that drives the bigger deals.
And just to play a little bit on this, I think that when I think about, I don't know why everything comes back to like alcohol. Maybe it's because I'm Irish, but you're out, it's a Thursday night, you've had a little bit too much to drink, you've got a little bit of brain fog. I think the same thing happens with founders. We get so deep into, we have to find prospects that we don't see the greater picture. We get this startup fog, which is we email. And if we're trying to get into a Microsoft, for example, and we think, well, I've emailed 750 times, I don't think there's anything else that I could possibly do to get better. Well, it's because you're looking at it incorrectly. And what Dustin is saying, they're not reading this. It's a little bit like trying to play tennis with a golf stick. You're never ever going to be able to do it. And so I really, really like where you're focusing here and saying you're building a real relationship. But this isn't one of these like sales things of, oh, you're building a relationship. This is like one of these real things. You're building a relationship. And if you don't genuinely approach this relationship with, because you're speaking about the larger customers, but if you don't approach that relationship with the expectation that it should take a little while to be able to build up the trust, and there are things that you're going to have to do to build up the trust, and it is not going to be an email and a PowerPoint campaign. It is going to be a domain expertise, a trust-based, and an awareness campaign that has to be extremely carefully planned, right?
100%. I love it. Brian, can I also say that we have two people that have jumped in here with comments. So I just wanted to, do you see them? I see Jennifer Lee there. Yeah. She's loving the size of your mic. Jennifer, we are getting Brian set up in the studio with the mic thing. It is a little big on his screen. One of the things we're going to do in the next round, I'm almost positive, is probably bring that mic a little farther forward.
No, and actually I want to speak to this, because everything, like the whole idea of this podcast is, this show is that we have 280 companies that we work with every single day. And like with all of the companies that we're working with, we get all of this pattern recognition. And then there's all these other founders who are thinking, well, what do we need to do to be able to build out a unicorn? What do we need to do to be able to get through Series A? And like in the previous week, I've literally engaged with 40, 50, 60 companies who have all either overcome a problem or found a bigger problem that I and we want to share with you. Like that's the objective of what we do here. So when Dustin is talking about it, it's actually a very serious thing. I am incredibly good at building community, right? Physical community. I'm incredibly good at building cult. Now, what does that mean? It means that like internally, I'm very, very mission and purpose driven. And as someone who's mission and purpose driven, I focus entirely on deep, meaningful content. And I do that not even so much for folks around me. I do it for me because otherwise, what's the point in living life if you can't do amazing things with incredible people and be able to watch actual transformative change happen? And so when you do that, because the world is so deprived of that these days, then it becomes relatively easy to build a community. It's always been my chosen marketing channel to be able to break through. However, Dustin has been a friend for a long time, and I've watched and admired what he's been doing, and he's watched and admired what we've been doing over here. And Dustin said, Brian, a local community is not a global community. And the only way you can build a global community is by digitally engaging in a consistent way so that people know what to expect and that you're providing meaningful value. So if this was me before, like, and so a lot of even what you're going to learn here are things that I did badly before, but I brought incredible people in who said, hey, this is what you fix. And so Justin and his team came in and they're like, Brian, it's all going to be different. First of all, we have to create a place that your community are going to live digitally. And that's where we created Buddy Boss, and we created this great digital online community where people can engage and they can help. Number two, we have to make sure that when we're building domain expertise, it has to be done in a way that the audience are treated with respect. And so everything that's happening now is because of that. So I want you to learn not just from what I say and what guests that we bring on here will say. I want you to learn from the things that you actually see me doing, because I'm taking that same advice from the other people. I like what Jacob said there. Dawson is awesomely authentic, brilliant, and the fastest problem solver west of the Mississippi. I think there's a couple of words in here which are really important. First of all, authentic. When you're building brand, and I'll always divert back to brand because I love brand as a topic. But when you're building brand, you have to build it from a place of authenticity. If you're trying to fool people, it just doesn't. Like you can fool them a little bit at the time, but you'll never do it for all the people all the time.
And it just doesn't scale huge.
It doesn't. It doesn't scale.
It gets big for a little bit, but it hurts when it pops in the wrong way.
And you know who's a great example of this, Dustin? Like Gary Vaynerchuk. Look how well he did it. He embraced a community. He took the wine community back in the day. The people who were selling to the wine community thought that what everybody wanted to see was a sommelier talking about the nose of the wine and the feel of the wine and the body of the wine. But that was only a tiny proportion of the people. What everybody else wanted to hear was, can you just tell me a really nice bottle of wine that I can have with some cheddar cheese? Like that would be really cool.
It's not too expensive and everything. Like he just spoke to the masses in such a cool way. I loved his Wine Library TV back in the day, right? And he was active in social media in a very thought leadership way. Like that guy was all over Twitter back in the day. And it was just a blast. I was fortunate to even speak with him at a New York event one time. And we're sitting there, and I mean, he was engaging on screen. He's engaging in the green room. That guy was everywhere. Now, not all of us can do that. So that's
why not though? Why not? Why can't we do it?
I've tried to train so many like realtors and other small business professionals, and they just aren't that good on camera, and they just don't want to always be on. And you can't blame somebody. So honestly, that's where the thing I've learned is like we did a podcast for the CMO of Dun & Bradstreet. Like my team put that together for him. He wasn't going to be a Gary V. He just never was. But what he could do was a weekly podcast talking to influencers in the space. And, he ended up talking to somebody, I remember from Adobe, and he talked to somebody, and we could schedule that for him. And it got him a great thought leadership element to it. And it was just really, really cool. I loved, Brian, I see you got Jennifer Lee's even next comment up there.
Yeah, we brought it up on the screen. I'm not gonna push back because I agree with you, right? Not everybody is perfect for every area, but I just want to speak to like what Gary Vee specifically did, when building his brand and actually getting out to the world. So, because there's two different conversations here, which are both intertwined, right? The first conversation is, how do I amplify my brand to a larger audience in a way that people are really going to be able to engage, right? And sometimes the product is not perfect, and sometimes the person is not perfect for it, but the tactic is excellent. And you don't
Mhm.
have to be 100%. Remember, you can just be like 45%, 23% is
100.
really good. And then the second point is the brand itself. So when Gary Vee was there, Gary Vee, first of all, authenticity, right? Gary Vee is like, and trust, right? His trust was, I work in a wine shop. I see wine all day. My dad owns a wine shop, and it's a small wine shop. So I'm just like you. We're not rich people telling poor people how much rich people like wine. I'm a poor person just like you, talking to you about how can I get you a $7 bottle of wine that actually tastes okay. And then Gary Vaynerchuk thought to himself, how do I make this content engaging? How do I make it
Mhm.
interesting to the people who are going to be watching? And he did some crazy stuff, right? We don't have to pee into a glass and like compare it to a Chardonnay, compare it to like, hey, I don't even know my wines, but like whatever wine he compared it to. But like that was his way of making a point, which put him on the opposite end of the spectrum to where he's worth. By the way,
100%.
Grant Cardone does it in real estate in an incredibly strong way. Exactly the same thing. There are thousands of real estate people out there who nobody will ever hear of. But then there's Grant Cardone.
You
And
know,
Grant Cardone goes out and
and I
changes it.
think Jacob here has a good point. He's talking about like the public trending towards a personal brand. This is in the back of my mind. I keep thinking Gary Vee is a great example of this too. Even at Dun and Bradstreet, when we were doing things, one of the things that I really tried to focus on was people don't actually want to hear on social media from a brand. I actually see a lot of executives or founders make the mistake of trying to publish everything through their company. I find that most people don't want to follow like what a company says. There are exceptions in pure consumer play, like a Taco Bell who's over the top or something. But most companies aren't that and don't have somebody they can pay who really can go blow it up through the company. More important, people want to hear other people. Like I think that's where Gary Vee struck out. Like I know the name of his brand, the Wine Library or Wine Library TV, whatever it was called, but it was close enough, right? Like I knew he was wine. He was that brand. For an executive getting out there, it's so important to be the face or like what we did at Dun & Bradstreet. We had a huge enterprise. We had we called them ambassadors, 8 ambassadors that would publish, and we helped them publish so that they would get more speaking engagements, so they could write books, so they could have their own podcast. And then we used the brand to amplify that. So when I think of what, I would recommend is like getting into the tactical element, it's as the founder, make sure you're the one out there. Don't try to push this off on your brand, because for very, very few of these AI companies or any stuff, does anyone think they want to actually hear from the brand? But they will be fascinated to hear from the executive who's behind it, who's there. That's where you get your real insights. Just my own
Okay.
little insight.
I love it. Okay, I want to give an example because there's really good dialogue going on here between Jacob and Jocelyn and Andrew about like building personal brand and building your brand and making sure how this all entwines. So I'm going to give you an example. And then by the way, if anybody would like to come up and would like to like share a brand, and I know Jennifer really well. So I'll give a little example and then I'll talk about Jennifer. And then if anybody wants to come up, just put your hand up. And you're always very welcome to come up here. This, for me, the area of value, authenticity, trust, and then amplification is the secret to success in a startup, period. It's actually in that order. If you have no value, if your customers don't desperately need you, then I'm sorry. Like it's really nice, but it doesn't really matter what else you do. You're building it on something that's not needed, right? And if you don't have any form of authenticity and how you're building your brand, it's going to be just a matter of time before people find you out. And even if you break through and you make a lot of money, I'm sorry, you still failed. Like it still sucks to have wasted your life on a lie. And then the next piece is like you have to build trust around you, and that's where the consumer generated content and other people speaking about you is incredibly important. And then obviously the amplification comes on top. Now, Let me just bring it back to an example. This morning, I spoke to one of our companies, Credit, raising. They were raising a $750 round, but that got oversubscribed really fast. Then it went up to like 1, that got oversubscribed. Then it went to 1.6, that got oversubscribed. This is all in the last 30 days. Like, it got so oversubscribed that that their VCs actually started inviting them. One of them owned a football team over in the United Kingdom, so they invited them to come and see their football team play. Like, that's how good this company is. And so you might say, gosh, this must be a company based in Silicon Valley. This is a company based in Africa. And then you might, oh, maybe it's a founder who went to like Stanford or Harvard or somebody else. No. Perfectly normal founder, just building a really great product. Okay. So Credit sends money from diaspora to Africa really inexpensively, right? Uses blockchain, think all the Lightning Network, built some great tech on top of it, really great marketer, and the revenue is going really well. Everybody wants a piece of Credit. We invested in them a little while ago, and now everybody else is seeing it, which is fantastic, right? I met him over in Denver, and we sat down, and I'll go through this piece quickly because it's the next piece, which is really important. And when I met with him, we looked at his brand, because him getting to 150, 180,000 a month is not the hard piece. The hard piece is jumping that up to $500,000 a month quickly, because that's the name of the game. The war we all have here is against time. And so then it's to get from $500 to $1 million a month. Once you do that, the game is over. Okay, you've won. You can decide to win relatively small, but still enough to have meaningful change in your life, or you can decide to go to the next level of Nintendo and go for the whole unicorn, right? But at this stage, he's at $150,000 a month, and we want to build it up to $500,000. So we looked at his brand, and Expert Dojo came in, and we looked at it, and we changed it, and we built in the purpose, and we're like, okay. And I'm going to give you like a 5-hour session that we did, or a 4-hour session. I'll give it to you in like 30 seconds, right? We moved it from we can't send money cheaper to Africa to Western Union have been stealing from the African people for the past like 100 million years. And so has everybody else who's been engaged with the African people. Stealing. Because $10 to $15 to send money over to Africa is stealing. The costs on the FX on top of that is stealing. And then all of the hassle to go through is just makes it even worse, right? We send it for $1 through Credit. So we are not sending money cheaper. We are recovering $1 billion of stolen money directly to the African people through the world's first ever fair money transfer system. Okay? That is how you connect your purpose with your brand, a thing of absolute beauty. And so now he then goes back and he's like, oh my God, we can do this in 4.9 years. We can get $1 billion back to the African people, recovered, paid in full. Now hiring people, how easy is it? Targets for people, how easy is it? You don't have to give people targets anymore. It's really simple. You just put that thing in place. And so everybody needs to be doing that when they're working on their brand messaging. There was a message in here, a chat about simplicity of brand messaging. You want to make it clear, and you want to make the other person that you just told what you do to be almost embarrassed to tell you what they do, because it seems insignificant in comparison. But then is when you get to Dustin. So our conversation was this morning, okie dokie, we got the brand, we're in good shape. Now it's Dustin time, because now we are going to amplify your personal brand. Now we have proven the value. We have proven the authenticity. We are proving the trust, by the way, because we are going to get user-generated videos, not from the people sending the money. I don't want a video from the person sending the money. I want a video from the mom of the boy who sent $100 over, and she could now get an Uber or a Lyft or a ride across a dangerous area because her loving, beautiful, incredible son, who is so much nicer than the rest of all of her children, sent her that extra $15 because he wanted to make sure she was okay. Right? That's the user gen. So that will build the trust. Now we have the awareness. Now we want to amplify it. So do we amplify it by smashing on doors, Brian style? Nope. We go Dustin style. We build his personal mission. You know what his personal mission becomes when he's speaking on stages, in podcasts, everywhere around the world? $1 billion isn't enough. That's a damn good personal mission,
Those
right?
are so, and that's where, where I would come in just to kind of give you a sense. Like love it. Like that is the exact kind of campaign that are so awesome to be part of. Then it becomes, how do you make sure you're going out regularly? Because telling everybody that one time, you're not reaching anybody, right? Like sometimes you have to tell that same story 20 different times, 20 different events, 20 different podcasts you got to get on. You got to have people writing about your story 20 different times. You got to be in TechCrunch. You got to be wherever the story is going to go and get out there, right? So part of that is also just having a campaign behind you where you're doing the right outreach, but your website is also built in a way that you can take advantage of good SEO and get organic traffic from Google. And ideally, you've got a nice social ad budget to really promote the crap out of the stuff when it starts working. So if you start trying some campaigns and you're like, let's get them on this, you see, oh, that's working. That's when you throw an extra, some money behind that to go, okay, now let's go amplify that message and make sure that there's the right kind of CTAs that make sense so that it's good for the business. But like Brian's saying, that message right there, that carries. And that's some of the best referral marketing. That's the stuff where people do share it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm part of Credit. Go, you should be too. Like you want to build that either. Some products you can't build it into. All right, it's just that people have to share it themselves, like an executive has to share with an executive. In this case, people really will share. This is one where a product that can kind of have that product-led growth, but it can still be really amplified by those executives in there that are doing the right thing and spreading the right message and something that's shareable, something that people want to talk about. I love it, Brian.
Yeah. And, to make people feel, which is really what brand is, people have to feel. If you don't have something that makes them feel differently, like I love the end point in building a beautiful brand is transformative change. Like there has to be transformative change, but the road there is emotional engagement. And so feeling is emotional engagement. So you have to make people feel. And the problem is if the founder of an early stage company is not like really emotionally involved, like you can tell Dustin's really emotionally involved. You can tell that I'm really emotionally involved with what we do. I love early stage startup. The worse the world gets, the more I love early stage startup. Like I always said, look, I hate organized religion and I hate politics, and because it takes beautiful things and destroys them, and I love early stage startups. So whenever things get worse, I move deeper and deeper into the beauty of creativity and watching like incredible people build amazing stuff. And so so me coming here this morning and like talking about an hour of content, and Dustin coming here this morning like is a pleasure for us. We don't have to prepare or put together notes. Like it's just two buddies chatting about something that we love. Like if we had the choice of going to a bar this evening and having a drink or being here and talking, like this is where we want to be. And I love what Jennifer said in her note before about like how she's authentically living her passion through Entry Envy, and how the personal brand and the business brand is so intertwined. It totally is. Like if you build, like go back to my credit example, like if you build a business brand around we're going to repay money, but then they don't hear anything from the founder, there's no meaning or message, then you still may sell. You still will get a reduced cost of customer acquisition. You still will have people staying with you for longer and better people coming in for you at a lower salary. But you lose the heart of what you're building. And then people inside who are craving for something better, because you set the bar here, they'll go and set it up themselves. And that's what will happen. And so the question becomes how you do it. And like, I love what Entry Envy do, by the way, is they create this incredible subscription service whereby you can really personalize your house for yourself. And I think, and by putting it on the front of your house, and she sends these like subscription every single month, you'll get something new. So it might be Christmas and she'll send out really nice Christmas decorations. And then the next month it will be something else. And I think you can really get people to feel even more than you do right now, Jennifer, by really getting them to focus on the things that they really love. Like when you get that to the next level, it will be, how do I take Brian and take the thing that he's most proud of and make sure that I engage that, and he can showcase that to the whole world. Like I had this guy come in the other day, Dustin, and he'd been buying Bitcoin. We had this really funny event at the dojo Man, you missed it, but it was so funny.
Sorry,
It,
I know
it,
I need to get here. I work out of here every day, and I'm going to stay for more of these
it
events.
was so
I used to go to so
funny.
many, and I need to
It
get
was
back in
so.
that.
So the event was Web3 as a joke, and
I
it was
know.
local comedians here in Santa Monica, and they came in to roast a bunch of Bitcoin people on Web3, and so we had. Everything is normally pretty serious because it's about startups trying not to die, right? That's my job, is to try and make sure that like the startups we invest in and the folks that we help, like that you live, you live to tomorrow. And so it's really nice to get a little bit of levity. And so these guys came in and they started doing their talk, and we were trying to take reels so that we could amplify our digital message. The problem was there wasn't a single piece of content that we could use, not one single piece, because it was so raw. It was so raw that the mayor of Santa Monica left. Whoops.
It was that rough?
It was very raw. But it was good though, because we need raw, because it was nobody picking on everyone. It was everybody picking on each other. Okay, that's brilliant. I love it. So look, personal brand, all I'm saying is like build your personal brand into your business brand. Build your passion and your authenticity in a very visual way out there. The name of the game with all of this is a reduced cost of customer acquisition. That's all we care about. Remember, 10 years ago, Dustin and I, even doing this, were irrelevant. Actually, we wouldn't even talk about this. We would just be talking about how do you do more Google ads or Facebook ads, because it worked, right, Dustin? Like you're the experts in digital, but it used to be
Yeah.
super easy. You could put a square pillow up there. I remember they did like the square pillow guys, and they put a square pillow, and they like sold millions of freaking square pillows because just the numbers work. But it doesn't work anymore, right?
No, I mean, you got to be creative to break through. Let there be no doubt about it.
What have you seen happening just in, I know we're talking about brand today, but I just want to
Yeah.
really reinforce this message. Like, how bad do you think things have got with digital marketing, advertising, buying, like today versus 10, 15 years ago? Is it like 5 times more difficult, 3 times more difficult? Where do you see it?
Um, it's interesting because like I think you just need to now have some niche where you really have an advantage. I have found our ability to make a lot of money for customers through ads totally still doable. But if you're doing really generic stuff and you're going after averages, it's really hard because there's almost always some quants out there, and the AI that just, I wouldn't call it AI, just some of these machine learning algorithms things, they can work to average you out. So the only people making money are the ad platforms. Like they want to get any of your profit off of you, right?
So
So
depressing.
so the way to make money is to not go after the averages. So, one of my examples I would use that has worked so well is with the personal injury law. I was working with this personal injury lawyer for quite a while. And we were spending a lot. We're spending $500,000 a month on Google ads, right? We got our budgets way up there, but it was entirely focused on huge cases that come through commercial insurance. We put all of our bit there, only targeting certain types like mobile ads, and only doing like, we had all these tricks we were doing where we niched it out. We spent a ton of money, and we started getting these big cases that are worth a lot of money to the law firm. But we had somebody come into we had this expert SEM buyers, ad buyer, look at our campaign and go, "Oh my God, your cost per click is way too high. Your cost per lead, I can't believe how much you're spending." And we're like, "Yeah, but look how much revenue we're driving per dollar spent," right? And because we were going after huge cases, we could spend more on average, way more than the competition, but only for a very niche kind of case, right? So if you know your product well enough and you know where your money's made, it is entirely possible to use ads to go make a lot of money. But if you're going after the averages, you're just essentially paying some execs at Google and Facebook and elsewhere to have a really, really good life, right? Because they're just going to make sure that you're getting by, you're making a little bit, but you kind of have to have your own little niche on there that does something that gets you insight. Or honestly, I wouldn't even bother. Like there's no point going out there unless you have something really cool that you're some idea, something you're doing, somebody you're working with that's unique and better.
Mate, it's so depressing. It's so depressing because like if you got no, if you like got zero, it would be okay because at least you're put out of your misery really fast. But like what's happened is slowly, 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 they will suck the life out of you. And I see, I have people that we've invested in and people that we haven't invested in back in the day who've said things like, "Oh, we're still alive, we're still making." And I'm like, "But why?" Seriously, if every single month you have just a teeny weeny bit less, what do you think is going to happen by the time you get to the end? So remember, go back. Let me contextualize why all this stuff is really important. As an investor in startups, remember, we live or die based on the fact of our startup value increases of the companies that we invest in, period. If we don't invest in companies that make more money for our limited partners who invest in Expert Dojo, then there are not many job opportunities for us. Like, there really are not, because the only thing we have to do is not lose money. We don't even have to do anything else, just not lose money. But 50% of VCs lose money. How's that for like a horrible fact, right? So it is very high pressure, and we want to obviously make sure that our companies break through. So when we're looking at companies that can be successful, we know two things. We know, number one, it is a race against time. It's a little bit trying to get love back in a loveless relationship. You know, if it doesn't happen really fast, what happens is the belief that it's going to happen by the other partner, no matter how many sessions you've gone through, starts to fade away. And you can't undo that once you get to a stage. It is a race against time. You have to understand this. Even if you are a non-backable founder, I even still believe you're in a race against time, because you have loved ones around you. You have mental health to protect. You have money that needs to be used for mortgages and stuff. Like, it is, or you have to wake up every single day feeling that you are starting to drown and you need to get your head above water that day. And that means outbound outreach. It means building your optimization with your customers. It means something to Dustin's speciality of making sure that your systems are not dropping more through the floor than are coming from the ceiling, right? And you have to have a lovable product. And so how we measure this is by saying 200% growth annually. If you get 100% annually, it's totally fine, right? You're going to make it. But if you're at under 100%, and by the way, if you're starting from $1,000 a month, it doesn't count. Like, you got to be at like 20K a month or something where it's a baseline that shows that you have a reasonable amount of customers in place. But once you get to that 20K a month, it's 100 to 200% every year. And then we can go deeper, and we can talk about like renewal metrics that we would like to see, or we can talk about like margins that we would like to have, and we can talk about like money in the bank to keep it going. But the most important one is that you can show that you're 100% plus. So everything Justin and I are speaking about today is around those two topics. We don't want you like breaking up with your relationships. We don't want you getting divorced. We don't want you having mental health problems. We don't want like your kids not to know who you are. We want you to break through quickly. But by the way, by the same token, and I know this is like a crazy thing for a VC to say, I don't need you to be a unicorn. Like, I don't care. I don't even know many people who know how to spend $1 billion. Actually, most people I know who have the problem of spending $1 billion have got way more problems than the rest of us have. It's the people who have 20 million who are real happy, because those people are in good shape. So we want you to be successful. And so I'll say one last little point, and I really want to get Justin's view on this, is that when we talk about build your brand, build your personal brand, amplify your voice, build trust, build authenticity, it's not because like we're looking for the beauty of the art of startup. It's because we know digital ad buying does not work the way it did 10 years ago. It is an absolute depreciating asset. And if the asset was 100% before, it's depreciating at 25% every single year. And that means you are running out of money for sure in 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. And we also know for an absolute fact that if you have nailed the value, the product on the end of it, then if you use these as better conversion tactics, you are going to convert more. You can reverse the depreciation, and you can get the 100% growth. That's all we're trying to do.
I seriously love it, Brian. You know what you're talking about. It's part of the fun of this.
Well, this is what we do. And Justin, what I so love is that, like I said, I'm as founders, I'm a founder. I happen to be a VC, but I'm a founder. I'm a founder of a VC, like you're a founder of every other firm. So I go through the same thing. I'm just luckier than the rest of you because I get to be around like a bunch more brilliant people all the time than most other human beings do, right?
Can I
But
skip jump in just for a
yeah,
second, Brian?
go. Yeah,
I
please.
work out of the dojo most days now. I come in, I've got my team here. I'm watching Brian. I don't know anyone who's busier than Brian.
I'm
He
pretty
says he
busy.
talks to a lot of people. I get to see his calendar on the back end every once in a while. It never freaking ends. Like I'm pretty sure he's in his fourth meeting. This would be his fourth thing that happened on a Monday morning already. I don't think I'm
It is.
exaggerating, right? So it's pretty insane. There is that going. I mean, it is a beautiful thing to watch, Brian. But you're right. You have that founder. You are a founder at the same time. It's through and through. It's in your blood.
And this is what we do. And I feel the same as the rest of you. If I don't get up at 4:30 in the morning, well, who else is going to do it? If you don't get up at 4:30 in the morning, who else is going to do it? Like, you don't ease gently into this. You are viciously looking, I don't know if viciously is the right word, but it feels it, but like looking for new customers every single minute of every single day.
So,
Okay, so here's what I want
Brian,
to
we
do.
need to get a
Yeah,
private chat though. Can we go there? If the name is just Chi, I don't think they'd care if I said that. I'm not sure who it is, but they say,
yeah,
would you please let us know where startups can go to find out how they can work with you and receive your help, please? So
yes.
I would you want to tell them where to go, Brian?
Yeah, and look, so why don't you share a little bit in there also, like what area that you're struggling with today? Like, think of this as like a doctor call. And so I'll share with you like some stuff that we can help you with. But just also like just throw in there in chat while I'm giving you a little bit of information here so you can
I
do it.
think they might be looking at it from somewhere else because it's showing up as a private chat. It's not showing up in the LinkedIn. I'm not sure why. Do you
Yeah,
see it as a
yeah,
private
yeah.
chat?
I
We're
do
still
that, but
figuring out. We're going to figure this system completely out. This restream we're using. I love it, but here I'm not totally
I
sure why
love it.
it's there.
It's so good. Yeah. And so first of all, we're an investor. So that's what we do. So 80% of my day is taking care of like all of our babies and making sure that everybody's fine. So everybody we invest in, we pretty much stick with them for 4 or 5 years. We don't leave them. We don't let them go. This is why I'm still talking to Credit about building up their personal brand like way after that they've started doing this stuff. This is why Dustin will be involved with these guys in like a week or 2 weeks to help them build it out. And this is why they're going to be super successful. But outside that, we do this show here every single Monday morning. You're always very welcome to join and you can ask any questions you want. We'll try and get to them all. Even if we have a topic we're going through in the show, if we see something really interesting that is going to be engaging and useful for everyone here, we'll jump in and we'll go through this as well. It's just about startup. Think about it like this. If it's 100% growth we're talking about, if it's winning the war against time we're talking about, then it's free game. Okay. And we'll help you with any of those comments there. Number two, we have a growth community, which is on the Expert Dojo website. So jump on the website, go on the front page, click on growth community, and then just go there, join, become a member of it. There's plenty of chat groups that you can be in. And we're also going to start dropping really good training content that will help you in some of these different areas. As I said, we bring in all these great growth hackers who can do it. And then other than that, look, if somebody ever wants a deck or anything to be gone through, like our bandwidth is pretty limited, but I'll always try and do something. It might take a few days to come back, but we'll try. So it's just Brian at expertdojo.com. Okay, good. So she's working on 2 startups right now. One serves tech founders through networking events, and the other one is building a new work platform for startups in Gen Z. So I am I think it's just very hard to have 2 loves. I do.
It's so
It's
true.
very hard to have 2 loves. Like how can I say this to you? I'm not saying choose. Like it's not a Solomon choice exactly, but it's
It is.
very hard to have.
Come
It
on,
is
Brian. It
maybe.
is.
Okay, it
I
is.
the number
It
of people
is.
I say that come with this one. You get a good marketing campaign,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, now we need to do 6 of them," and you're like, "We haven't really even figured this one out yet. Let's get this solid. Let's get this one rolling," and it kind of gives you permission to do other things. Startups are the same way. Like, and I hear him saying, "Yeah, I'm focused on one right now." Totally get it. It's just in the back of my mind, like, do one thing, get it working really well, that nothing gives you more permission among the market, among everyone else, to do new things than when they see one thing
Yeah.
kicking butt.
And thank you for slapping the niceness out of me. You can only have one love, period. And that love has got to be the only thing you ever talk about. Never talk about anything else. So tell us your first love. What's your main love? Your big love. And also remember what, look, first of all, before you answer Chi, and she just, okay, very happy to help. But we're going to read out what Chi says just in case other people can't see it. But before you answer, when I ask you your first love, you cannot tell me for the second time a functional attribute, because we want to puke all over functional attributes, right? Functional attributes are the graveyard of startups. You have to tell us, in the same way that Credit are returning $1 billion to the startup people through the first ever fair payment transfer system, you got to tell us the immense value that whatever you have decided to dedicate 16 hours a day to is going to transform your users with. Okay, I'll give you a couple of moments to put that in there. I also want to go over to Jennifer. Jennifer had a comment in here earlier on where she's talking about women in trades. And
Brian,
this
do you
is,
know how to like hit that so you can even show her comment
oh,
on the
yes,
thing? I
I
want you to do it.
do.
There you go. Look
I
at that. Now
do.
we're rocking.
Yay,
And
you're
then if you
so
hit hide
right.
again, it disappears.
Yay, thank you. Thank you. I'm a
You're
schmuck,
rocking
but
it.
it's good. I
I
like that a
love it.
lot. So I want to just speak to this. And so what I'm about to say is not absolute. It's just food for thought. A lot of the time, our personal brand stroke purpose is very strong, but it is not entirely aligned with our business brand, right? And so, Jennifer, I see your business brand as a brand that amplifies and allows people. And I didn't actually give the full talk about the Bitcoin person, but I want to talk about this guy for one moment because it really speaks to what I'm just about to advise you of here. So he came in and he's like, I've been buying Bitcoin. Firstly, he made a little bit of a mistake. His mistake was that he's a very, very nice guy from Texas. So don't take this wrong. But I was there and I was there with my wife and he's like, hey, pretty lady, what's your name? That was a really hard moment for a minute, but he meant it really nicely. And he was like a super nice guy. And I really liked him. She's like, I'm no pretty lady. I'm like, I'm a badass businesswoman. What you doing? And so then we got past that, which was great. And then he's like, yeah, I've been buying Bitcoin for like 12 years. And I remember when I used to go to shady garages and I would like get Bitcoin out and I would like do this because I truly believed that there was a store of value there. And I was like, wow. And he's like, I've been giving it to my daughter for her birthday and for like Christmas and for other times every year for the past 11 years. And everybody else thought I was a cheap ass lunatic. And now she's kind of set for the rest of her life. And so at this stage, I was kind of feeling jealous. And I was wondering if there was anything going to come from this conversation other than me getting into trouble with my wife later on that evening. And then he's like, look, my daughter is the most amazing, brilliant girl in the whole world. Honestly, whatever she got in Bitcoin is like a millionth of what she deserves. And she's going to come in and see you in the future because she's going to talk about this. But let me tell you, when she was in school, she was chosen as the most, not just the most popular girl, not just the smartest girl, but the girl who actually was the nicest and most beautiful person. And that's because she's the nicest. And then so for 15 minutes, he talked about how amazing his daughter was, and it was lovely. It was lovely. Like there's no joke here, no anything. It was really lovely. And so all I'm saying, Jennifer, is that there are people, and I feel the same about my boy. Like I do. Like I can be, an Irish jackass every now and again. But when I just look at him, I'm like, oh my God, like what a beautiful thing I brought to the world. And Dustin's got a new baby and he feels the same. So we love the things we love. And everything outside is noise and distraction. And so I understand your purpose is on women in trades, but the thing you do, the thing you bring to the world is you allow human beings to be able to amplify the things they love. And so I'm not saying stop helping women. What I'm saying is when you're strong, you can help women much more. And when you're building your strength, build your strength for your personal brand around your business brand. And so I would be amplifying stories all day, every day of incredible people who love the people around them. And I would be showcasing those stories on my website, on my social, everywhere, because they are entirely aligned. And then when you become like the lady who started Pop Puree, who I also met when I was down in Texas, who's a badass beast because she's managed to build out a multi-billion-dollar company through Pop Puree, and she has like crazy house and everything else. When you've done that, you can help women in trades, you can help anybody you want to help, because you're going to be rich and you're going to be powerful and you're going to be able to do whatever you want to do. But in the meantime, focus on building the business brand. Okay, Chai has come in, and this is going to be the last one, but don't worry, we're back here every week. And this is what this is about. It should be. I'm really grateful to everybody for being so interactive. This is for you, genuinely. I feel amazing thanks to you, because I feel like I've given a little bit in the Monday morning and I'm empowered. But I really want, and I want to know what Dustin wants from this too, but I really want you to go and do something differently. I don't want you to go away and be entertained or to have enjoyed it. I want you to do something different this week that you wouldn't have done if you hadn't have been here. And I want you to write it down. I want you to come back. And honestly, if you don't do that, we won't continue this, because I don't want to be a dancing monkey. I want to be a help and something you can do. Okay, let's see what Chai said. My North Star, the transformation I'm creating, which doesn't exist today, is bringing out the full potential of Gen Z through new ways of working. Blah, blah, blah. No, doesn't work.
Gee, can I tell you one thing you got to watch out for? Brian can be brutal in his assessment of startups. I love it, but I've rarely seen even the good ones. He'll be like, nah, you aren't good enough yet. So don't be surprised.
Yeah, well, I want to help you. I want to help you get better. And it's
His
just
heart is in the
boring.
right spot,
It's just
100%.
boring. It's just boring. Right? You want to bring out the best in Gen Zs? Who cares? Like, who cares? I don't want to bring out the best in all Gen Zs. Do they all deserve to have the best brought out in them? Like, how are you going to bring the best out in them? And what makes you believe that you have something that's actually going to be able to do this? So what are you going to do? What's your transfer? Like, let me give you an example. And I actually, Chi, I'll leave you to think about this. Come back next week and come back to us a better example. I'm going to leave you an example. Our North Star at Expert Dojo is to become the greatest experts on growth hacking that the world has ever seen. We are going to accumulate the Avengers of growth hacking so that we can enable every single human being on the planet, irrespective of color, race, gender, or any of that other poverty, any of that other stuff, to be able to start, build, and be successful in their own company and release the chains of bondage that is working for other people. We're doing it. But you see how we connected the two things? Growth hacking. That's what we bring to the world. That's what we do. Without growth hacking, the fact that I want the world to be better and everybody to be a startup is like, who the hell are you, Brian? Like, you're not adding anything to this. Like, what are you specifically adding to it? So come back next week. Come back with that. Throw that in chat. I think, Dustin, we got everybody.
We got some
else.
great comments here today. I love it. The LinkedIn has been a blast to watch everybody. Thanks so much for participating, everyone. And I think this time we still might have pushed it out to a few different networks and things. So if you weren't seeing it on LinkedIn, that could be why you're private chatting and stuff. But we're gonna be cleaning a little bit more of this up as we go along. We're just learning to use these tools here through the Expert Dojo. Brian's done podcasts and stuff for years, but we really want to play with this live stream every week. So I'm excited to kind of be helping out. I know, Brian, you have a big week ahead of you. So I think next week we're going to cover, well, I mean, do you think we're going to be covering a topic based on your adventures next week?
I'm going to share with you everything I see in Dubai. I'm going over to Dubai this week, and I'm going to be going over to the Dubai 2049 token event. And I'm going to go there because there's incredibly exciting things happening within blockchain. I love decentralization. I love anything that brings more creativity and rewards the people that are doing it. And what's happening within their movement's incredible. So I'm pretty sure that next week we're going to talk about how to build your own cult, because that's exactly what's happened over there. And that is also another awesome way to reduce the cost of customer acquisitions, because cults are incredible repeat buyers. So with that, Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jennifer. Great feedback and comments in there. This is what makes this engaging and fun and interesting, and also makes us feel like we're adding a little bit of value here. So we'll come back hard next week. If there's anything that I say or Dustin says that you disagree with, then like call us out on BS and tell us, like, let's have a good conversation about it. But otherwise, yeah, just have a great week. Go out there, outbound, reach out to more prospects, find some good news. Take what Dustin said about amplifying your voice a little. Try and work on some of the things we talked about here, user-generated content, trust, any of those other areas as well. And just go out there and have transformative change.
I love it so much. Thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you, everyone.